In the shadow of Mumbai's gleaming skyscrapers lies a world few outsiders ever see, a sprawling, self-contained city within a city, where entire communities survive on sweat, skill, and sheer human grit. It's a place where leather is tanned in makeshift factories, plastic waste is transformed by hand, and entire families labor from dawn until monsoon storms roll in. This isn't a hidden corner of the city, it is the city. Welcome to the labyrinth of industry, resilience, and relentless ingenuity. This is Dharavi. Dharavi, Mumbai, one of the largest slums in the world and an extraordinary city within a city. Over 1 million people are packed into just 2 square kilometers of tightly wound urban sprawl. Here, amid narrow alleyways, patchwork rooftops, and makeshift homes built from discarded materials, life continues at a pace and intensity few places on Earth can match. This dense settlement exists at the very heart of Mumbai, a metropolis home to the third highest number of billionaires globally, behind only New York and Hong Kong. Within its boundaries, opulent skyscrapers pierce the sky while vast swaths of slums stretch out beneath them, a stark contrast between wealth and survival. Few places embody urban inequality as vividly as Mumbai, where prosperity and poverty are not separated by miles, but by mere meters. Yet within Dharavi's crowded lanes lies a complex, interdependent economy that defies conventional assumptions about what slums represent. Often dismissed by outsiders as zones of deprivation and hopelessness, these areas have evolved into powerhouses of productivity, creativity, and resilience. Dharavi alone generates an estimated $1 billion in annual economic output, largely through informal industries that operate beyond the city's official records. Nearly half of Mumbai's population resides in similar slum areas, eking out an existence in homes fashioned from tin sheets, scrap wood, and salvaged plastic, all pressed against the glittering facades of luxury high-rises. While such conditions present unimaginable challenges, these communities exhibit a remarkable capacity for adaptation and enterprise. Far from places of inactivity, they are relentless hubs of hustle. Dharavi's origins trace back to the late 19th century, when colonial policies displaced marginalized communities and noxious trades to the city's outskirts. Tanneries, potters, and fishermen settled on what was then swampy marshland. Over the decades, waves of migrants from across India arrived in search of opportunity. Each brought distinct languages, religious traditions, and artisanal skills, which blended into the densely woven social and economic fabric visible today. Modern Dharavi encompasses a staggering concentration of small-scale industries, over 5,000 registered and thousands more informal. These include textile production, leather goods, pottery, plastics, recycling, food processing, and metal casting. Often described as Asia's largest informal economy, the settlement functions as a vital, if unofficial, manufacturing hub for Mumbai and beyond. On its main arteries, Dharavi surges with energy. The streets vibrate with the constant clatter of tools, the aroma of spices, and the calls of vendors hawking snacks, household items, and second-hand goods. Overhead, electrical cables tangle in dense, looping skeins between precarious balconies. Beneath, men and women transport bundles of fabric, piles of scrap metal, and sacks of raw materials, weaving expertly through a chaos that, appears disorderly to the untrained eye, but functions with astonishing efficiency. Children play cricket with makeshift bats and worn tennis balls in alleyways barely wide enough for a grown man to stretch his arms. The air carries the layered scents of charcoal smoke, frying food, wet earth, and refuse. A visceral assault on the senses, honestly, softened by the occasional waft of incense from roadside shrines. Beyond the crowded lanes and noisy intersections lies the true industrial heart of Dharavi, a labyrinth of workshops and microfactories that really drive its billion-dollar economy. Among them, hundreds of metal casting operations transform discarded materials into valuable products destined for markets across India. In these modest, soot-blackened workshops, clusters of laborers gather around rudimentary furnaces. Scrap aluminum collected from across the city, from window frames to engine parts, is melted down, recast, and shaped into items ranging from ornate religious figurines to utilitarian fixtures. The method remains virtually unchanged for generations. Inside these spaces, the heat is unrelenting. Thick, acrid air clings to walls darkened by decades of smoke and dust. The metallic tang of molten metal hangs heavy, coating the lungs and skin. Crude ventilation systems, little more than a fan and an exhaust pipe, struggle to dispel the oppressive haze. Yet, in these punishing conditions, men labor tirelessly, their movements precise, their resilience unwavering. Each day, hundreds of kilograms of aluminum are processed in this manner. Charcoal serves as the primary fuel source, its embers stoking the small but ferocious furnaces. Molten metal, poured into carefully prepared molds, solidifies into religious statues, decorative panels, and custom components, some intricate in detail, others purely functional. This hidden network of micro-industries, really exemplifies Dharavi's resourcefulness. Materials discarded by Mumbai's upper and middle classes actually find new life here, as part of an immense informal recycling economy. Plastics, metals, glass, textiles, virtually every material is repurposed. The settlement processes over 80% of the city's recyclable waste, providing a crucial yet often overlooked service, and all of this happens without any official recognition or support. The industries of Dharavi aren't just about metalwork. Leather tanning, which is actually one of its oldest trades, still remains a significant economic driver today. At its peak, the settlement's tanneries supplied leather goods across India and even abroad. But, stricter environmental regulations and rising land values have displaced many operations. Still, pockets of leather artisans persist, crafting belts, bags, wallets, and sandals. Their wares are sold in Mumbai's markets and exported to Middle Eastern and African nations. Textile manufacturing flourishes in equal measure. Thousands of sewing machines hum within tiny workshops, producing garments, bed linens, and accessories. Many workers migrate seasonally from India's interior, drawn by the promise of steady, if modest, wages. Entire families sometimes reside within the same space where garments are cut, stitched, and packed. The settlement's resilience is matched by its layered cultural landscape. Over 20 distinct languages are spoken within Dharavi's borders. Hindu temples, mosques, and churches stand side by side, testimony to the diverse origins of its inhabitants. Festivals are celebrated communally, with Diwali's flickering oil lamps illuminating streets just weeks before Christmas lights appear in the same lanes. Despite the hardships, the community's capacity for solidarity and mutual support endures. Extended families and informal associations provide a social safety net in the absence of consistent state intervention. Local charities, religious groups, and grassroots organizations offer services ranging from free education to healthcare clinics and food distribution. This duality, the squalor and the enterprise, the deprivation and the ingenuity, defines Dharavi. It is a place that, challenges simplistic narratives about poverty. Behind every narrow lane and crowded courtyard lies a story of survival defiance and, relentless ambition. In Mumbai, where the world's tallest residential skyscraper stands mere kilometers from Asia's largest slum, Dharavi remains both a stark contradiction and a vital artery in the city's lifeblood. It is a living example of how, even in the face of systemic neglect and acute hardship, human creativity and resilience can flourish. In a small, soot-darkened workshop, the ancient art of metal casting endures. Here, aluminum grates and industrial hardware are born from fire and sand, a process as old as metallurgy itself, executed with brutal, mechanical grace. It begins with the mold. A bed of fine, jet-black sand is carefully packed around a solid object, the template for the final piece. Every grain is compacted with precision, capturing the contours, edges, and intricate details of the original. More sand is heaped atop it, struck firm with practiced blows, until only the faintest imprint remains, a perfect negative of the object it was meant to replicate. Once the mold has taken its final form, the original item is carefully extracted. The cavity it leaves behind must be flawless. Any imperfection, however slight, risks compromising the integrity of the final cast. When satisfied, the artisans seal the mold, preparing it for the arrival of molten metal. At the heart of the workshop, the furnace roars. A crucible filled with raw aluminum glows with the searing heat of liquid flame, the surface shimmering red-orange like a miniature sun. When the metal reaches the perfect temperature, it is ladled out in shimmering streams, each scoop handled with practiced care. The molten aluminum is poured into the waiting molds, disappearing into the voids left by the templates. Within moments, the intense heat meets the cold rigidity of the sand, and the metal begins to solidify. The top of the mold is lifted, revealing the raw, newly forged piece, still clinging to the excess metal from the pouring channels. Workers move with relentless speed and efficiency. Each casting is broken free, the surplus metal struck away with swift, decisive blows. The finished grates and hardware are lined up, their surfaces still bearing the fine grit of the sand molds. Every surface, every crevice of this workshop is blanketed in soot and ash. The air hangs heavy with the scent of scorched metal and burnt sand. It is a scene from another time, a place where industry persists in its rawest, most unfiltered form. Grates, belt buckles, and components for the leather industry are produced in a steady, unyielding rhythm. There is a hypnotic cadence to the work, a relentless cycle of fire and form where creation is both violent and beautiful. This is the undercurrent of small-scale industrial craftsmanship, rough, dirty labor, bound by tradition and necessity, carried out with a brutal grace few outsiders ever witness. In the narrow, sun-bleached alleyways of the neighborhood, life unfolds in full view of the streets. Water, the most basic necessity, arrives for only a brief window each day, a few precious hours in the morning, between 6:30 and 9:30. During this time, residents scramble to fill plastic drums, metal basins, and battered jerry cans, stockpiling enough to sustain their families until the next cycle. Thick water pipes snake along the outside of homes, a ramshackle lifeline for a community long cut off from reliable infrastructure. The scarcity shapes daily routines with an unyielding hand. Men bathe in the open streets, lathering soap over their skin beneath the pale dawn light. Women crouch beside wash basins, scrubbing dishes and rinsing clothes while neighbors pass by. Privacy is a luxury reserved for a fortunate few. Here, much of life is lived publicly, dictated by the practical necessities of survival in a place where indoor plumbing is the rare exception rather than the rule. Surrounding these homes, the streets pulse with the relentless motion of the garment trade. It is the dominant force in the local economy, a sprawling, informal industry occupying every available corner of the district. Endless processions of laborers move up and down treacherously steep staircases, shoulders burdened with heavy bundles of fabric and finished garments. In places where the incline threatens to overwhelm, ropes are bolted to the walls, offering the only grip against gravity as workers ascend and descend, navigating narrow stone steps slick with dust. Behind unassuming tin doors and crumbling concrete walls, countless workshops hum with activity. Every square inch of space is claimed. Fabric arrives in bulk, stacked in piles against the walls, awaiting the hands that will cut, stitch, and press it into garments destined for faraway markets. The process is swift and unrelenting. In one room, fabric is measured and sliced into precise patterns. In another, lines of sewing machines chatter in unison, needles darting through cloth at a relentless pace. Some operations are no larger than a pair of adjoining rooms, yet within these cramped quarters, a full-scale production line emerges, raw materials transformed into finished clothing in a matter of hours. The final step is the press, where shirts and trousers are smoothed and folded, ready for sale or export. In this world, there is no wasted space, no idle moment. Every surface, every narrow room serves a purpose. The garment trade weaves its way through the streets and homes alike, a constant presence, sustaining the local economy while offering little respite to those who labor within its grasp. This is the unfiltered pulse of informal industry, a place where survival is earned through sweat and relentless repetition, where the streets serve as both workplace and home, and where the fragile infrastructure of daily life balances precariously on the edge of scarcity. In the dense heart of the garment district, the air hangs thick with heat and the scent of fabric dyes and scorched metal. Beneath makeshift roofs of corrugated asbestos, patched with scraps of insulation, small factories churn ceaselessly. In one corner, sheets of polyolefin are transformed into protective cases for electronics. In another, thread becomes garments, lace, and intricate embroidery. Every building, every room, every narrow alley serves a purpose in this sprawling, living machine of human industry. The true marvel of this labyrinth lies not merely in the sewing, but honestly, in the entirety of the manufacturing chain compressed into a single, congested, urban sprawl. Raw materials arrive in battered trucks and on the backs of laborers, weaving through alleys barely wide enough to walk. Bundles of cloth, coils of thread, and cartons of buttons pass right alongside finished goods headed for distant markets. It is a continuous, chaotic ballet of production, distribution, and survival. From thread to fabric, from fabric to garment, every stage takes place within these sun-scorched passageways. Textiles are dyed in open vats along alley walls. Above, in lofts little better than crawl spaces, workers sleep among drying lace and colored fabrics, their quarters serving dual roles as dormitory and warehouse. The dyeing process stains the ground and air alike, turning the very streets into extensions of the factory floor. Subcontracted workshops specialize in distinct phases of production. Some cut fabric into patterns in cramped rooms, others embroider designs by hand or machine. At the final stages, garments are pressed, folded, and packed into boxes destined for export. There is no outsourcing, no distant suppliers. Every link of the manufacturing chain exists within the boundaries of this urban warren, forming a self-contained industrial ecosystem. Among the stalls and makeshift shops, traditional crafts persist alongside modern manufacturing. One stall sells natural toothbrushes, slender twigs from medicinal trees, chewed at one end until the fibers separate into bristles. For generations, such tools have served communities as a natural, biodegradable means of oral hygiene, and their bitter taste is believed to possess antiseptic qualities. The economic gravity of the district is undeniable. This is no mere neighborhood but a city within a city, a fully functioning industrial organism with its own infrastructure, workforce, and economy. Amid the unending clatter of machines and the shuffle of laborers, industries both ancient and modern coexist. And, deeper within, beyond the garment trade and small-scale factories, lies a leather tanning district, where another chapter of this relentless, self-sufficient economy unfolds. Deep within the tangled alleys of Dharavi lies a hidden stronghold of the leather trade, a place where raw animal skins are transformed from organic waste into finished consumer goods. Here, belts, bags, jackets, and, honestly, countless leather accessories are produced entirely within the confines of the slum, with every stage of the process unfolding in small, makeshift workshops. The process begins with goat hides, a byproduct of the city's immense appetite for mutton. Due to religious dietary customs, goat remains one of the most consumed meats in Mumbai, and its leather fuels a thriving, if hazardous, industry. In dimly lit workshops, the air thickens with moisture and the acrid scent of chemicals. In one such three-story building, piles of raw hides are soaked in potent solutions designed to strip away fur and preserve the skin. Massive wooden drums, scarred and stained from years of use, rotate continuously, tumbling the skins in a chemical mixture. Hours pass as the hides absorb the treatment, softening and stabilizing their organic origins, gradually giving way to a commercial product. The floors are perpetually slick with chemical runoff, and the hides, pale and glistening, are left in heaps or strung from beams overhead. Only a handful of workers manage this entire operation. One man feeds hides into an industrial press, squeezing out moisture before passing them on to be dried. An elderly woman carefully racks the prepared skins, hanging them in bunches, while others ready them for the next phase. Above, on the building's upper levels where a faint breeze filters through, the hides take on color. In this cramped, sweltering room, vats of dye and leather paint stain both skin and air. Workers, armed with brushes and rollers, hand-color each hide, turning the untreated material into rich shades of brown, black, or ochre. Rows of painted leather hang drying from every available space, the scent of dye and preserved skin blending into an overwhelming atmosphere. This small-scale tannery, like countless others in Dharavi, represents a remarkable fusion of necessity, craft, and relentless labor. Despite the primitive conditions, an astonishing volume of leather moves through these spaces, thousands upon thousands of goat skins processed and prepared for the regional and export markets. Further into the district, another economy thrives in parallel: the recycling industry. Here, discarded plastic, metal, paper, and refuse of all kinds are given new life. Every day, over 2.5 tons of waste arrive from across the city, funneled through sorting centers operated by long-established networks of laborers and micro-businesses. Dump sites, scavengers and workers pick through vast mounds of refuse, sorting materials into distinct categories: cardboard, aluminum, plastic, and more. Everything holds value. From these mountains of waste, rough sorted materials are transported deeper into the slum, where specialized workshops handle the next phase of the recycling chain. Within these factories, towering sacks of plastic waste await processing. Workers separate items by polymer type and grade before breaking them down into smaller fragments. The pieces are then prepared for recycling machines, which will melt, reshape, and repurpose them into usable goods, often the very plastic containers, tools, and accessories that will eventually find their way back into markets across the region. This relentless cycle of deconstruction and rebirth forms the backbone of Dharavi's informal economy. Industries ancient and modern coexist in a dense improvised network of labor, craft, and survival, each relying on the other to sustain a vast, interwoven urban organism. Through narrow, unmarked doorways and twisting lanes, heaps of unsorted plastic wait in piles, seemingly of little value. Yet within this intricate urban ecosystem, even discarded refuse holds potential. Once broken down and sorted, the value of these materials rises dramatically. Precision in segregation directly determines market worth. The more accurately the waste is categorized, the higher the price it commands. Truckloads of segregated plastic arrive in designated recycling alleyways, where every delivery is accounted for with the vigilance of precious cargo. Enormous canvas sacks filled with sorted waste are weighed and registered like commodities in a clandestine exchange. Despite the bulk and awkward nature of the material, laborers haul these immense loads through congested alleys, balancing them impossibly on their heads amid the relentless chaos. Within this network of backstreet workshops and makeshift factories, the transformation begins in earnest. Slum-based enterprises purchase the sorted plastic in bulk. The first step is color separation. Along narrow assembly lines, teams of workers methodically sort the materials. Whites, clears, reds, greens, pinks, blues. Each category amassed into crates before being repackaged into fresh canvas sacks. These, in turn, are stored and staged for the next crucial phase. The culmination of this recycling chain is the chipping process. Here, jagged shards of plastic are fed into grinding machines that convert them into small, uniform fragments suitable for melting and remanufacturing. The atmosphere is a haze of heat and deafening noise, punctuated by the constant hum of machinery and the metallic clatter of labor. Safety measures remain rudimentary at best, with laborers working perilously close to exposed gears and blades. Above and below, life continues in layered strata. Elevated walkways thread between workshops, providing passage for workers above, while dense makeshift dwellings and street-level commerce persist below. The entire environment operates as a self-sufficient, vertically organized industrial city. Deeper within the maze lies another specialized quarter, the pottery district. Thick plumes of smoke cling to the alleys as countless kilns burn ceaselessly in makeshift yards and homes. Families labor together, crafting clay vessels with astonishing speed. Women carry earthenware on their heads through smoke-hazed streets, while potters working in cramped rooms mold chai glasses and storage jars with mechanical precision. Clay is shaped on traditional foot-driven wheels, forming a single towering mound from which multiple vessels are produced in rapid succession. A thin cord slices each finished piece free, swiftly making way for the next. Entire rooms become impromptu drying spaces, crowded with rows of freshly thrown glasses awaiting firing. In every corner of this district, the rhythm of production continues, each sector specializing in a distinct craft or trade. Together, they form an industrial tapestry, where nothing is wasted, every material repurposed, and every skill passed down through generations. Within this dense, frenetic sprawl, the resilience of human ingenuity confronts the pressures of modern urban survival. In a modest workshop, the craft of pottery continues much as it has for generations. Clay is centered on a spinning wheel, gradually shaped by steady, practiced hands. Each vessel begins as a thick, rounded wedge, widened and hollowed with precision. The technique is simple yet demanding. Symmetry is essential. A fine cord slices each completed piece cleanly from the wheel before the next is begun. The process, though ancient, remains strikingly efficient. Dozens of identical chai glasses emerge in rapid succession from a single block of clay, each one nearly indistinguishable from the last. The potters work with a speed and fluidity born from years of repetition, the room filling steadily with rows of freshly shaped vessels left to dry in the heavy air. Once partially dried, the pottery is loaded into large square kilns for firing. These kilns, built directly behind the workshops, are unlike modern facilities. There are no towering chimneys or ventilation stacks. Instead, air is contained by thick layers of cloth, and oxygen enters only through small intakes near the base of the walls. The fuel is rudimentary, sawdust, densely packed within the kiln chamber. Once ignited, it smolders slowly, releasing a persistent dense smoke that saturates the surrounding alleys. There is little fresh air circulation. The result is an atmosphere thick with the scent of damp, smoldering clay and ash. The kilns burn continuously, their perpetual operation cloaking the entire pottery district in a smoky haze. This enduring industry, built from necessity and tradition, continues to thrive within its compact boundaries. Each small household operates as both living quarters and production space. Families working side by side to supply the endless demand for clay vessels used daily across the city. It is a system where the line between domestic life and industrial labor is all but erased, and where ancient methods persist, unaltered by time. The final stop on this journey is Dhobi Ghat, Mumbai's legendary open-air laundry district, a sprawling, communal enterprise unlike any other in the world. Here, entire families have built their livelihoods around the age-old business of hand-washing clothes on an industrial scale. Rows of concrete washing basins stretch through narrow lanes, each basin accompanied by a flat stone against which fabrics are vigorously pounded to release dirt and stains. The process begins with an intense soaping and scrubbing, followed by repeated beatings against the stone. Only then are garments rinsed in communal freshwater tanks, though by midday the water takes on a murky cast from constant use. It is grueling, unrelenting work, a labor-intensive ritual carried out with remarkable precision. Ironing stations line nearby alleyways where heavy, coal-heated irons press clothes beneath the hands of workers who live above and around their stations, often sleeping and eating in the same cramped quarters where they labor. The rhythm of Dhobi Ghat begins before dawn, with many starting their shifts at 4 a.m. Workers take a single hour's rest each day, and meals are taken between loads. Large metal drums boil garments requiring sterilization, including medical scrubs and uniforms, while open-top hand-cranked dryers spin water from the newly cleaned fabrics. Each family within Dhobi Ghat typically operates an independent business, serving their own clients and maintaining their own basins and equipment. It is a system built on trust, reputation, and a relentless work ethic. Machines are occasionally employed, though only for the initial softening cycles of newly manufactured garments. The drying process is equally distinctive. Instead of pegs, long, twisted ropes crisscross the air between structures. Garments are threaded between the rope's strands, held securely by tension alone. The result is a sea of color, with thousands of pieces of laundry billowing against the concrete backdrop. Amidst it all lies an unexpected beauty, a dense, labyrinthine community of staircases, walkways, and clotheslines pressed between glassy high-rises and modern malls. The contrasts here are, stark and extraordinary towering skyscrapers loom above homes built of corrugated tin and crumbling brick, yet the community endures. Despite periodic rumors of redevelopment, Dhobi Ghat continues to thrive, supported by local authorities and reliant on essential utilities provided by the city. It remains a rare enclave where tradition and necessity intersect, a living, breathing machine fueled by human effort. As the sky darkens and the monsoon rains arrive, the slum bursts into sudden, coordinated activity. Laundry is whisked down from the lines, basins are covered, and walkways cleared. It is a scene repeated countless times each season, a practiced dance against the rains that define life in Mumbai. With the storm closing in and the washing grounds emptying, another chapter in this intricate, remarkable city draws to a close, a testament to resilience, community, and human ingenuity amid relentless urban sprawl. Thanks for traveling with us. Wherever you are in the world, remember, home isn't just a place, it's a perspective. We'll see you in the next story, only here on Beyond Borders. Hit subscribe, share the journey, and stay curious.